Hello and welcome to The Story Pilgrim, episode 3 of season 2, Daria Lebedeva, Everyday Magic. Now, before we start walking, a small invitation. If this podcast has found its way into your routine, please can you make sure that you are following or subscribing wherever you're listening and share it with somebody who you care about. It really does help these walks reach the people that they are meant for. Now, today's episode, I am walking along the banks of the River Thames with Daria, a route that she walks every Sunday with her mum, and one that carries more than footsteps. Daria is full of stories. She was born in Russia, moved to the UK as a child, and grew up close to rivers, woods, and open land. That closeness still runs through her. We talk about spirituality without certainty, magic without performance, and what it means to listen to yourself when the world keeps offering instructions. This is a walk about trust, about paying attention, and about letting something quieter lead. Let's walk.
Okay, so my name is Daria. I'm an intimacy coach, so I work online with women. We are currently in Kingston upon Thames in the UK. What was the other question?
Why?
So to have a nice walk, to have a chat, to connect, to see what comes through and hopefully give your listeners some inspiration or just something maybe to reflect on, and that's kind of the purpose.
Cool. It is very nice here, isn't it? You forget how lovely and how long the Thames is. It is absolutely gorgeous along here. Yes. So are you from this area originally?
So I've moved about quite a bit, but whilst living in the UK, I've mainly been in the Surrey area. So like Kingston, Surbiton, Chessington, so around these parts,
Okay.
Southwest.
And you inferred there, whilst living in the UK,
yes.
That would infer that you have not always lived in the UK.
Yes, so I was born in Russia, lived there up until about 10, until my mum got married, and then we moved to the UK. So from 10 I lived here, but I've also lived in other areas in the UK as well, like Brighton actually, where I went to uni for 3 years.
I saw that.
Uni.
Yeah.
Then I lived in Bromley, lived in Putney, so kind of like all over the place. I tend to like move about quite a bit.
Do you still have family in Russia?
Yeah, I try and go every year. Like my grandma's still there, my extended, cousins, and everyone's there. So for sure, I try and visit as much as possible.
Where are they?
So Moscow area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never made it to Moscow.
Oh, well.
I've only made it to St. Petersburg.
Oh, yes.
Leningrad. It was Leningrad when I went.
Oh,
it's now St. Petersburg,
St. Petersburg. Yeah, that's also really beautiful. There's loads of culture and history there, and the actual town itself is quite full of museums, and like the architecture is quite amazing because they haven't done too much of that sort of like new buildings or anything like that, which is quite a contrast, whereas in Moscow you get all the sort of more new builds and the sort of new vibe, which is also worth seeing. So hopefully in the future when it gets a bit easier to
you
go
speak
there.
Russian?
I do, yes, so it's my first language, so I speak both Russian and English.
So intimacy coach.
Yes, so this
Has that something, a title you've always had?
Absolutely not, no, and who knows, this might also change.
Okay.
This is a new title. So about a year and a half ago now or so, I decided to go into more just working for myself, so like self-employment, private coaching. So I kind of started off at first with work specifically within somatics, and then that expanded into spirituality and then business support. So I kind of like dabbled in all the different areas for around a year, just kind of like applying different modalities that I've learned over the years, seeing where I want to go with it. And then the last couple of months there's been this big shift where I was like, you know what, I'm like really passionate about working with women, specifically within their sexual healing and relationship journeys. So that's kind of how I landed on intimacy coaching at the moment.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. You've mentioned University of Sussex. What was it that you studied?
So I studied psychology. That was like where it all started. Psychology degree. And then for a while after that, I went into marketing actually. So I kind of went down the route of a little bit more sort of doing something that's creative and kind of like living the life of like what I guess my family always envisioned for me, working in central London in an office, doing that whole thing. And it very much was not like me or what I really wanted to do. But, I had these kind of like expectations on me. Now, whether those expectations were very like subconscious or unconscious, probably a bit of both, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, I ended up going down that route. It was quite dreadful. It was a horrible time. It was not good. I had such a mask on, I would like turn up to this office, I would like hold myself in such a way, like I would like limit what I said, like I was very filtered, like I was basically like playing a character that I guess was expected of me to be in those environments.
Yeah.
And it took a lot out of me, because that takes a lot of energy to kind of like pretend to be this version that you're not really.
Yeah.
And also the everyday commute, you just see everyone so miserable in the morning. By the time you get there, you're just like, oh my god, what is this? So it just got to a point where it was so bad, like I was just like crying every morning, I would wake up, I was like, this is just not it, like
really?
Can't be doing this anymore. And I was also in quite like a difficult relationship at the time as well, where I was quite isolated, so everything kind of like came crashing down on me, as it usually does before like a big change. So I decided to just go to Bali for a couple of weeks. Dropped everything. I was like, I'm off to Bali. Like left my partner, the job, everything. Went to Bali. Had an absolutely like amazing experience. Like I just remember this feeling of like landing there, and it was like a different world. It was like almost like paradise or something, and it wasn't just the distance. I think it was the difference in culture, the weather, everything. Like people generally seemed to be more like smiley and upbeat, even though you would think like the standards of living are quite different. But yet what I noticed, all those people were just, they radiated like almost like love and warmth and joy compared to sort of the London standard. And just the 2 weeks I spent there, so much reflection happened in myself, and I felt a freedom that I never felt before. So when I returned, that's it. I finalised, like I quit the job, I left my partner. I was like, I'm going to go travelling again, like I'm just going to do that for a while. So then I spent about a year just travelling about different places in Europe, and I then went back to save up a little bit more to go back out to Asia. I did that. Trialed Asia for a bit, and then the second time I was in Asia, I was in Thailand about 10 days by myself in the mountains, doing that whole go to yoga every day, reflect, like kind of like not talk to anyone, so like really the inner journey, if you like. And it came to me, you know what, I'm ready to go into the more mental health world, because that's originally where my interests were when I actually did psychology. I just wasn't really ready for that straight after uni. So I decided on a master's in psychiatric research. So I applied, and then by the time I got back, I then got into the uni, and then shortly after started my master's in psychiatric research. And this was around COVID times, actually. Because I almost got stuck out in Asia when that was happening, so that was not fun.
Not the best place to be.
So
well, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot. You mentioned, there's a lot. There's a lot there. Mask that's a really interesting word that you used there, and the crashing down of everything. Do you think was that a necessary part of your journey?
I think for me, yes. This is the question I keep asking myself over the years. I keep reflecting on this and being like, does someone have to absolutely get to that point where everything is just such chaos and such a mess that it makes you do the shift, or can you do it before? In my own personal journey, I've had to get to that point. And in a lot of people's others' journeys, that's also been the case. So a lot of clients I've worked with, a lot of friends, everyone, it seems that unfortunately you kind of have to get to that point. So if anyone has different experiences, please, I'd love to hear it. If there's a different way of doing this. But for me it definitely has, because again, I think you're so like roped into believing your own like illusions and others' illusions that this is just how life should be, and you just carry on, right? It's this whole thing of like, well, you just push through, you just do it. it's almost like you've committed to it, so it's almost like, oh, you can't walk back out on it because you've put so much into it.
Exactly.
And that keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
Whereas now I try to kind of look at it, this is why like what I do keeps shifting actually, and I'm okay with that, because I'm not going to put myself through that thing again where I just get so stuck in something that drives me to that point. I now try and make that change before, and I'm kind of like, I'm okay with just shifting directions and going with the flow a bit more now.
Yeah, it's that sense of awareness, isn't it? Of knowing where you're at. And you know, I find it interesting that as we're walking along the banks of the Thames here, you've got on our right hand side we've got some very nice houses, very nice flats, very nice apartments, and then we've got the Thames, and on there you've got some boat houses that I take, some of them are probably just for the weekend type of thing, but other of them do look like that people have made the choice to live there at a much, I would imagine, and I'm only assuming here, much cheaper than being in one of these.
It is. I've looked into it because that's my plan. Yes.
Okay.
That is my future plan, to get one as well. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it's just about sort of throwing out whatever you've been told and trying to find what it is you actually want. And you know what? That's a hard thing to do. Because I think we've got so many layers of other people's illusions, expectations, like wants for us, that it's almost like we don't know what it is we deep down want. And even that can keep changing. Like I found for me, sure, I've embraced that, okay, maybe this is what I want now, but that just keeps changing like every month, every week. So it's kind of like, again, maybe embracing the fact that we just go with the flow, and as long as we try and at least stay true to our wants, that it's okay to go with it. And even if that's shifting and changing, that's okay. Like what you want in the next year or 5 years might not look the same. The whole thing is like the journey, right? So it's like, even if you don't get to your goal of where you wanted to be in 5 years, but you're somewhere else, and that's also amazing, and that's also cool. It's all about the actual steps of getting there. As long as you're enjoying them, then like you know, can't be better than that.
And why Bali? Why not like Truro or Dublin? You know.
Do you know what? It's hard to explain. It was almost like a soul calling or something, because I then went back there like a second time again. It's like one of them places that I felt, for whatever reason, drawn to when I've thought about Asia. And going there, and there was no specific reason. It was just like something that I saw, and I was like, this is where I'm going. This is my first stop. This is where I'm going. I just need to be there for whatever reason that was. And my kind of like my spirit, my soul, whatever you want to call it, like really connected with that place so much. So I mean, you know, that's the only way I can explain it.
Did you have a plan? Did you book a hotel for 2 weeks? What was that experience?
So first time I went, I actually did an organised tour group thing. So you kind of fly out there, and then you join a group where it's all like organised. So you meet other people who are also travellers, and you go to all the different places for the 2 weeks. So the first week was around Bali, and then the second week was actually on the catamaran around all the different islands, which was also really cool. So because it was my first sort of trip alone out, you know, also to like quite far away, I wanted to make sure, obviously, I'm a bit more like comfortable in that travel sense. And I connected with some amazing people. I've met one of my best friends who we've now known each other for 8 years, you know. We still keep in touch on that trip. So it's definitely, I hold that trip very dear to my heart.
That's really great. And can I go back? Let's go back a little bit. You mentioned being brought up for the first 10 years in Russia. Then you're coming over to the UK straight away. Can we talk about religious upbringing? Was there anything of that? Because you're very spiritual. How's all that?
So Russia tends to be Christian Orthodox. In my family in particular, was never like religious. I was Christian, so you know, I think my mom had a cross for me that I wore for a couple of years, but I'm very bad with jewelry. I kept losing it. So there was never any like expectations or teachings. Like I never really went to church or anything like that. So my upbringing was very like just non-religious, but it was very nature-based. So we would spend every summer in the countryside in Russia, and that's just in Russia in general, like kids get the whole summer off. So, and a lot of people have something called dacha, which is like the countryside, so you would go and like stay there. So I grew up kind of like a tomboy, you know, in the forests, in the rivers. So specifically our countryside, it's just like one of the most beautiful places. Like, so we literally have a house like right, like, you know, I don't know, 50 meters away from the forest, if not like less, and two rivers right near. And yeah, I was very close to nature, and growing up with some of my friends there as well, we used to connect with the magic of the place quite literally. Like we would play like by cooking different potions and like summon the winds and, you know, all the sort of like in a way like those kids games. But looking back at it now, like I know that the people that were in my life then, those kids who I still am friends with as well, like we connected on that deeper level, just from like a soul level, because back then you weren't so like, you know, inputted with what you were expected to do. You already were starting to be filled with that, but you still had the space to have your own like inner soul come out and shine, and that was shown through the games and the interests and the shows we would watch. Like my favourite show used to be Charmed, which is about the three witches. Like I love that show. So yeah, my upbringing was very much like believing in all these things and the magic, and it just unfortunately got, you know, like suppressed when I did come over to the UK, because we then spent less time in Russia. I spent less time with those people, so it kind of became more and more suppressed as kind of my life went on.
Do you find that a common thing, like with your clients? Do you see that as a happening a lot?
I mean, to be honest, it's not something that was much like brought up or discussed, but I would assume so. It's, you know, in general, like as kids we tend to spend a lot more time in nature and doing those maybe outdoorsy things and clubs, and then, you know, you kind of get into secondary school, and then for some reason all of a sudden everything just becomes so serious.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And it's like, you know, a different life takes over. And I mean, also as a teenager, I guess you have different interests, which is understandable, but many people tend to then, you know, get away from the nature aspect and get into the whole more superficial ways of society's expectations. And, you know, it's more about, oh, how do I look? Like, you know, it's about making an impression on someone you might fancy, all those things. Those are all natural and wonderful, but there's so much the society puts on us in terms of what is important that we forget to connect with all the other things that we had before that.
Exactly. And where's that led you to now then, with where, I mean, I asked you where we'd like to go for a walk, and you pretty much quickly said along the banks of the River Thames. Here we are, not far from London. We're out. Are we Greater London? Is this?
This is technically still London, but you can kind of say.
And here it is pretty. It's pretty rural, isn't it? Like it's not rural, but there's lots of trees and there's not many buildings and stuff.
Exactly, especially this walk.
Yeah,
and this walk I try and do every Sunday with my mum, which is why it's so special to me, because now I've really got that deep connection with my family as well, and we connect on that spiritual level also. So actually every time we go down we have very like insightful conversations, and almost like, you know, those mirroring experiences where you're like, oh yeah, this is it. And so we have those like awakening moments. So this is why I love this walk. No,
it is lovely along here. And you used that word magic before, and I have done a little bit of research, and that's on your website. There's magic on there. How are you bringing magic into your life now?
So now I have a lot of like rituals that I do, which are very grounding and also expanding at the same time. So I'll do a lot of crystal work or candles and rituals in general. Like I will say, I don't think there's no specific way of doing anything. Like there's just guidance, right? So it's like it's great if people want to go online and they look into it and they see and they try out like a specific ritual. But also I will say, feel free to just do your own thing and to explore it, because ultimately it's just a way for you to connect with nature and then also with like cosmos or source or whatever you want to call it, right? So it's like whichever way works for you to establish that connection is great. So it's like, you know, there's no particular like it has to be this candle color or it has to be this crystal. Like those things, if you believe in them and they work, is great, but it also work in other ways, because the main thing is that you believe it works. So you can create whatever you like really and just kind of go with the flow with it. So I do a lot of rituals because I find it puts me in that space. And I've recently been getting into shamanic drumming as well.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really cool. So I've been doing a lot of inner like shamanic journeys and connecting with spirit guides. And again, I just see it as like a different realm of play. So it's like, you know, we have like the human existence and the human world and the human worries, and then this is like a way to connect with like a different realm where our spirit can be a bit more free and can play around. And yeah, it's just lots of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to the skeptics out there. I like to try and be as open-minded as possible.
Yeah.
Whatever works for whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously there's moral bounds in there and stuff.
Yeah.
But the skeptics that are out there who like, that's a load of rubbish.
Well,
what would you...
I mean, if that's your belief, that's completely fine, and then it will be rubbish for you. That's the thing.
Yeah.
As in, like, if you're not believing in something, then it's not going to unfold in that way, and that's okay. It just means you're choosing to live in whichever way you're choosing, whether that's just the human realm and the human existence, or, you know, maybe like you're into also like psychology, and then you explore the more emotional realms and the like subconscious, right? Like I see that as another way of like life and different exploration. This is just yet another element of that. So it's kind of like there's no, like, we're never gonna know if something's really truth or not truth just in general about life or existence, and that's okay. The whole thing is, if you believe it and it works for you and it's helping you, then that's great, right? There's no harm in that. If something is getting you to a place of more expansiveness, of growth, of finding something, you know, exploration, then that's wonderful and that's amazing. So it's like those experiences for me are just, again, another way to connect with a different self, so with my more spiritual self, and through that, you know, I might receive some guidance or downloads, as I call them, in terms of, you know, maybe where I should be heading, or like some ideas. And again, like, maybe that's just my mind's way of creating an easier way to basically come up with ideas to with creativity, right? Yeah. But that's also okay. If that's how it wants to show up and to do it, then that's how I'll do it. So that's what I'll say about that.
Love it. Excellent. And you say you are particularly working with women.
Yeah, so this is my new direction. Okay. So I'll take you back a little bit for after masters. Yeah. So with the psychiatric research masters, I then started doing a lot of clinical placements as well, because ultimately what I wanted to go do is do the clinical doctorate, so to become like a psychologist. Again, it was more a little bit of the, you know, traditional route. Because back then, again, I still had the mentality of like, I need to follow all the standard, you know, steps of like societal expectations of how I need to help people and work with people. Mm-hmm. So I started doing clinical placements in mental health hospitals. Okay. So I worked in that for a few years, and that was very intense. That was very, very intense. So it was, you know, long 12-hour shifts, night shifts. Really had an effect on my health as well. And
I bet.
Yeah, I will say, like, obviously as a reflection in general on working in the systems, like, there isn't as much support as should be for the people that work there, to be honest. Because there was a lot of like vicarious trauma, as they call it. So, you know, sort of you're picking up on what someone's going through and you're not being helped to process that yourself. Because for me as an empath as well, I take on a lot of others' like experiences, emotions, and it's just my instant way of like connecting with people. So I feel very deeply, but then back then I wasn't really given the resources to like actually get rid of what I was, you know, getting from other people in a healthy way.
You weren't assigned like a therapist yourself?
No.
There's not that
No.
support structure in. Okay.
So there are in specific professions, it wasn't in these ones.
Yeah.
So it really varies. Or for example, they'll say like, oh, we'll pay like 10% towards it or something like that. And you know, I mean, living in London is pretty expensive.
That's nothing really, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was quite a difficult experience. And then following that, I actually went to work in a prison because I wanted to switch it up and to go down a slightly different route but still have that, you know, client experience. So that was helping people with addiction.
Okay.
So it would be the people that would kind of like come in and you would try and help them with the recovery, because a lot of the committed crimes were linked to that a lot of the time. So you were kind of trying to break the cycle. But yeah, that was also a very, very difficult job because the client loads are it's just like the caseloads are ridiculous, to be honest, for any one person. And it was so much like paperwork more than actual like client time. So I felt like I really wasn't making the impact I wanted to or could. And it was kind of like, you know, putting out a small fire, whereas underneath there was just too many flames still burning. So
was that male or female?
That was a male prison, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and the mental health.
That was both.
Was that
the wards, different wards, male and female.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of my more, I guess, the mental health background experience. And with the prison, I ended up having just a huge burnout myself. Like my own mental health went downhill. There was a lot there that, again, there wasn't really that support to kind of process what you were seeing, like what you were hearing from clients, and also just around personal safety as well in prison and in mental health. Like there's a lot where, you know, it's high risk of being attacked, especially in mental health.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes in terms of like putting you into that survival mode on a daily basis, because you have to, right? You have to be hyper aware constantly.
Yeah.
And no one really talked back then around like nervous system and how that affects your whole like body and how you're constantly in fight or flight mode and how to actually then switch off. To be honest, I never did. So again,
can I ask what age you are at this time, roughly?
So now I'm 20. Oh, back then you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I was like 25, 26.
Okay. Yeah.
So
okay.
Again, like even just based on the learnings I had done, it was all more around like the traditional routes of like talk therapy or, you know, like the strategies that were already there, but no one really talked about the importance of the body or the nervous system, which is what I delved into after this whole thing, because I realized how it had an impact on me.
Sure.
So yeah, I was living in survival mode, like even more than I was before, just constantly like hyper alert, hyper aware, couldn't sleep. It was, you know, just quite a severe effect. So my own mental health started to really deteriorate. My general health started to deteriorate, where I got to a point where I was like, right, I got to leave and I got to take a break and figure out what I'm doing with my life, because this is just too much.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I came in wanting to help people. I came in having had a journey in life where I kind of, you know, I found myself a little bit.
Yeah.
And then again, it felt like a disappointment almost, because it was just like so intense and you felt kind of just left to your own devices to deal with it. So yeah, at that point, I was trying to get help for myself, and I think this is something I'd actually like to delve into, because this is quite like upsetting as well in terms of like the systems and how they work.
Yeah.
So I was getting really bad sort of flashbacks from my own experiences, like my own trauma, not even specifically from these places, but just in general life. So I was having really bad panic attacks, and I would have like seizures, almost like panic attacks with seizures, where it landed me in hospital quite frequently. And I went to the doctors, and you know, as usual, they kind of just like recommend you medication, and I said, I get that, I'll be on it, like I'll see how that goes for a while, but can you also just give me some like other support, like any other therapies, anything else you can do? And they were like, no, like you don't really like fit criteria, blah, 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 all this. So I had to myself like look online, and basically, I can't remember how I did, but I found a way to like make an application for myself to be seen by a psychologist for a proper analysis.
Okay.
So that happened. were seen by her, and she was like, oh, have they not done any bloods for you or anything like that? And I was like, no. People have just given me medication and that's it. Nothing else was explored, nothing else was done. She's like, right, okay, we're gonna do that. And she was like, I'll refer you to a trauma center and I'll refer you to a neurology, because based on like the seizures and everything, she said there could be something there in terms of like brain as well.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, great. So they did the bloods, and turns out I was actually had an inflammation. So I had hypothyroidism. So it's like an actual like sort of condition which wouldn't have been found unless, again, I myself had made that application.
Wow.
And then that referral and that and so at this point I went back to the GP and they were like, oh, okay, well we can just give you medication for it. And I was like, oh my god,
here we go again.
I was like, okay, no, because that's for life. And I've read up about it, and like ultimately if you just stay on the medication, you can get to a point where they just have to like cut your thyroid out. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm young. Like, I'm not gonna be like on this condition for like the rest of my life. So I looked at alternative routes and actually found a nutritionist who specializes in this.
Okay.
So I went down that route, and that was a very tough journey, because at this point I was pretty much bedbound. I was like, I had such low energy. Like, I had, like literally, I remember there was a point I couldn't even walk to the kitchen. I couldn't get up and walk for like 2 minutes.
Right.
It was just, really, really difficult. And I started this nutritional course that she did. It was like a specific 4-month diet that I had to follow, lots of supplement support. And then the following year as well, that whole year, it was very much just changing how I was eating. But not just eating, it was changing my sleep patterns. Like, I was changing around like the types of exercise I did. Well, to be fair, I couldn't even do any back then. But like gentle yoga or breath work or something before sleep to help. So, and also changing in general what my body is putting in. So I got rid of all makeup. I now only buy makeup that's like you can eat pretty much, right? Okay. I make my own skincare, like I make my own perfume. So it's like I just completely shifted what goes into my body to make sure that it's just like, how they say it's like, what's the saying? Like, keep your temple clean, or basically. Your body's your temple.
That's a lot of effort though.
Yes.
Like for somebody that's in that state, like you say, you're struggling to get out of bed.
Yeah.
That's an awful lot of effort. How did you do that?
Well, I had support from my mum, where I needed it, my partner at the time.
Yeah.
And it's just little bits, little steps at a time of whatever I could do, I would do. Yeah. And it varied. It's like one day it was like that, then a couple of days I would be a little bit better, or I could maybe go for a walk and do more things. So it was just kind of like going with it. But the main thing was the food and cooking the right food, and my mum like really helped me out with that as well. And I must mention as well, this time I started reading a lot into like trauma and the body, and the famous book The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you've heard of it. That was like my first stop, and where it kind of landed me in the journey I was in with the somatic work and nervous system work.
Sure.
So it, like, my health started to like gradually improve, and I was getting my energy back. I was starting to feel better. But at the same time, so that referral for the trauma center, I actually got a letter back. And you know what they said? They said, you don't really fit our criteria. We recommend you get a job.
Get a job?
Yeah, I'm not joking.
Wow.
And that is coming from people who are working in like a trauma unit, who are meant to be understanding, compassionate, and this is exactly where that whole thing comes of, like, so many people don't feel they deserve help, don't feel like they're at that point, because people just tell them, oh, it's not that bad, it's this, you don't fit the criteria or whatever. So just because I was like high functioning, if you like to call it, as in, before the actual like really bedbound situation, I was turning up to work and all this, no one knew what was going on underneath, so that's what I call by harm functioning. They didn't see that as like sort of enough to sort of get me the treatment, because I showed up, I made my own appointment, all this. So that's just something I'd like to put out there, just for anyone who might have gone through like a similar situation. Please don't ever feel like you don't deserve help, because you do. Everyone deserves help. And it's just honestly mind-boggling to me how you can receive such a cold response from someone who's meant to be aware around trauma and being compassionate. And never heard back from the neurology either. It's been about 2 years now. So
Nothing, not
even heard back, nothing.
Wow.
So again, that reliance to get help from the system, unfortunately, if you don't tick the box, if you're not in that box, you're not going to get the help. Which is why I now very much talk about alternative solutions and really doing your own sort of research and finding people that, finding other methods that can help you, because I've personally been there and I know it can work and it can change your life. You don't have to just follow what the system tells you. And you don't have to feel abandoned by it either, because there will be others who will support you through it. So,
would you describe yourself as a rebel?
I'd like to. I will totally claim that title.
I mean that in a very good way. How was nature instilled in your life? What do you do?
Mainly only walks. Honestly, walks are just my thing as well. It's my big form of exercise, if you like. But it's not even exercise. It's just a way to get out, to connect, to see all the beautiful little things that we might miss. So I love just walking and paying attention to the little leaves or the little berries, or just the things you probably would miss unless you're you'd probably miss unless you're really walking consciously, I'll put it that way, right? You're walking with awareness, because we all just tend to rush from A to B and we don't look into the little things. I'm trying to think back of how it had even started.
Where did that come from?
I've always had an interest in terms of how the mind works, hence the whole psychology and that route and everything. But to really start to what I will call being connected to self really only came about probably a few years ago, after that whole burnout and after I started delving into the somatic work and the body work, right? So it's the nervous system, the body based, and because up until that point everything was around the mind. Again, as the system talks, it kind of only goes to explore the one part, whereas there's so much more. There's the body, there's the spirit, and you kind of have to bring it all together to really connect to self, is how I see it. So as I started to delve into that work, I started to do the body-based practices. I started to actually feel myself more, and I didn't realize how disconnected I was from my body, how I was living very much locked in my mind. And I started to meditate, and it was I would move my hand and I would actually, it's this is my hand, it's moving. It was a whole new experience, and I know it sounds so simple, but it was such a big shift. It was almost actually being in your body. So the more I started doing those very simple practices, the more I actually started to get sensations back. I started to embody, is what we call it, right? You start to embody as well. And that helped me also unlock the mind part and the spirit part. So again, it's kind of aligning all of those, aligning your tempo and the energy, then kind of unlocks the channel to really connect deeply inwards. So now I do, honestly, about 80% of my time is inner work. I spend so much time on just being in my own world, reflecting and speaking to my inner parts, the inner children, the shadow aspects. So do you want me to delve into that a little bit? Because maybe some people don't.
I'd love that.
It's kind of I will break it down like this. There's many different modalities that cover this, but ultimately what it is finding parts of you that are hidden from yourself. Because maybe they're buried deep down, maybe they hold a trauma part, maybe they're a protector part, and usually when we're living on autopilot, like a part of us will kind of like go into the driver's seat, and like they're basically running the show, and this is what we call sort of like autopilot, when there's not that like full conscious awareness. Whereas when you step into your full self, your higher self, I'll call it, it's like you can witness all these parts there in front of you, and they're no longer the ones sort of in the driver's seat, but your full self is. So that's kind of like the easier way of like explaining of how that connection works. And so you might find like there are honestly unlimited numbers of these parts of us, and also they'll change, like there'll be new ones coming up. So again, it's just like an exploration of self as you go through life. So I spend a lot of time talking to these parts and giving them what they need, because a lot of the time when they're kind of like separate from us, they're like holding on to something, like again, like I said, trauma or something like that. They probably require something from us that they never received from someone else or ourselves. Now we're at a point where we can actually give them that, and a lot of the time it's just witnessing. So a lot of the time it's just hearing their story, hearing them, holding space for them, and then they get what they need. And then, you know, they might also ask you to do something like throughout the day, go and do something a bit more playful or fun, and you know, that will kind of like fulfill the need they have as well. And then they tend to like transform into something that actually now wants to help you. So that's like how we change an energy that might be I don't want to say like negative, because they're all helpful and useful, but changing something that's keeping us stuck or in the past into an energy that's actually bringing us forward or is helping us expand or grow. You're saying them, isn't it you? Yes, so same thing. You can say them, you can say you, because the idea is then to welcome them back in. It's just like a visual way of seeing you.
Of putting it,
Yeah, but ultimately, yes, there is just this one whole you, and it's all these different parts of you that are alive. It's just an easier way of establishing that connection in a way that kind of makes sense to our logical mind.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that to me requires a huge sense of self-awareness. Who guides you on that? Are you doing that?
So yes, both. I do that myself. I also have a practitioner that I work with, and I've done a couple different like modalities, so courses on these like methods and how to do it. So I did have to go through the journey of learning into how to first do this. But yeah, you can do that yourself. You can work with a practitioner, and there's different types of modalities. But ultimately, it's all about reconnecting to yourself, all about reconnecting to those inner parts, as we call them. But I also will point out it's important to work on reconnecting with your body, which is the somatic aspect, right? The body, the nervous system. So it's really coming back into a relationship with your body, because we just tend to not be too kind to it, to be honest. Most people are not very kind to their bodies because again, of just expectations and society, right? Like you're told, right, you've got to get up at this time, you've got to like go to work, do this, and we all kind of force ourselves into doing it because that's what we do to just live in this life, right? But really, like, we were never meant to live like that. Like, the body isn't adapted to this sort of modern way of life. No wonder we have so many illnesses, and you know, in all sorts of ways, not just physical but mental and spiritual, like because it's just a really difficult way, because we constantly have to force ourselves to perform in a way that isn't like, doesn't feel good or isn't healthy. And you know, we end up having the 5 coffees a day, not eating throughout the day, eating a huge meal before bed just to like feel some sort of like that effect of like, oh, I'm full, I can actually sleep now, you know, or drinking alcohol, taking drugs, like all these things. And those are all the things I used to do as coping mechanisms and behaviors, because you know, that's just, it was like the quick fixes. And you know, you're putting your body through so much. Or you know, sleep deprivation, where people are like, oh, I can live on 2 hours of sleep per day, it's fine, you know. And again, we're just putting ourselves and our bodies through this difficulty, and the more you connect to it, the more you start to listen to what it actually needs. It might surprise you the type of life you want for yourself. That's what I found for me anyway, and this is why I now strive to a completely different lifestyle. And I have it already, luckily, like in a way where my time is flexible. I go by my own schedule. Like, sure, of course I have responsibilities that I show up for.
Yeah.
Like, you know, today we met up, like, you know, I had an appointment, like I came up.
Yeah.
But it's like, I do it in a way where it's nurturing to me and it isn't like forcing me into like, it's not forceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to the people that are like, that want that quick fix? They're like, yeah, I need this, but I need it now.
I understand why. I did, like everyone does, because you just want to be able to show up for all the other things that you still have going on. You want the quick fix because you want to carry on doing life the way you're doing.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, how long is that going to last? Like, if you just keep putting a band-aid on things, eventually something's going to rip and break, you know, because there's only so long we can have the quick fixes if we're not addressing the real deep root problem.
Yeah.
And everyone's needs are going to be different. Like, people will need different types of lifestyles for them. But again, the point here is that you do have a choice. Like, we all have a choice. It feels like we don't.
Yeah.
It feels like we have to have one type of life.
Yeah.
But actually it's not true. You can absolutely leave everything at any minute. Even if you go, oh no, but I've got family, oh, but I've got this. Yeah, like we all do. But it's still a choice.
Yeah, sure.
It's whether you make it or not for you.
Yeah.
That's up to you. And that's everyone's life path is different, right?
Yeah.
People make it and people don't. Like, that's okay, either way.
And would you say that is the most important thing? Like, I lived in the States for quite a few years, and while I was there was a big thing about interventions. Oh, we're going to have an intervention with blah 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 because his drinking's getting too much or whatever.
Yeah.
Taking away that choice, basically, of saying, no, I know something's wrong here, I need to fix it.
Ultimately, I'm working with that woman to actually reconnect her with herself.
Sure.
So it's not about the partner as much. It's
Okay.
about coming back to herself, to her body, again, like having boundaries, communication, working through like any traumas and all this.
Yeah.
So but the way it's like, people seek something when it like when it's a fear factor about something else, unfortunately, a lot of the time, and it's not to do with just them.
Okay.
So this is why the sort of aspect of where I reach people is where they're looking to get help for their like relationship in the intimacy department, but ultimately it's about helping them as a person. Now, whatever happens in that partnership is it's up to them and following on, right? But ultimately it's about helping them connect back to themselves, and that's because I found that people don't search for that kind of help when they're by themselves, unfortunately, or you know, when they're like, so it's kind of like the other things take priority. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
I'm not sure if this was the question or not.
No, it does. And also, like, going back to what you're talking about before about, you know, digging things up down there, some things that you might not even have realised are there. Is there an element of fear in there? Frightening? What would you say to people that they're like, actually, do you know what? I don't want to bring that up. I don't want to talk about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I think we all go through life pretty much up until a point where we choose not to contain it anymore. Like, there is all the, like, I don't like to call them negative emotions, but this is what people think of negative, right? Like fear, shame, sadness, like anger, all this. Yeah. Grief or guilt or jealousy. But ultimately, like, there is no negative or positive. They're all like parts of us, and they're all an experience. And it's really about changing the way we see these states and changing the way we perceive them. If we can make peace with the fact that we're here to have the full human experience, not just the like happy, joyful ones, but to also experience the other ones, it brings it into perspective where they are all just states that pass and we all flow through them. So that kind of ultimately also takes out that element of like fear of dealing with them, right? And like sitting with them is how we say, like, right, holding space for them. But it is intense. Like, even for me, when I first, like, you know, I was suppressing so much, like throughout my whole life, as we all do, because you just get on, you're on autopilot and you're carrying so much inside. it just got to a point where I was ready, I guess, to explore it, because again, if I wasn't going to, it was never going to go away, and it was just going to overwhelm me more, and it was already like causing a huge like chaotic meltdown, because it was my internal world plus the environment that made the big sort of breakdown, right? It wasn't just the environment, it was also how much I was carrying inside. So again, part of that survival, if you like, was to just be like, right, I've got to face it now. It's like now or never, because it's just got to start happening. And it's a very gradual process. So, you know, you start small. You start by helping yourself, regulating yourself, your nervous system. You start by changing the environment, because those are the things that at first feel a little bit more like you're in control, right? You can start to help yourself that way, similar to the way how I did, like nutrition, sleep, physical movement, like, you know, skincare, like all the things you put on you. So like that you can already start to do, which will already start to help your nervous system. Then you start to shift in terms of like maybe how much time you're spending with who, where you are for now, because later on, again, what you need will shift. But at the moment, when you're in that sort of really vulnerable phase, you want to help yourself as much as you can and take that time. And then you start to sort of unlock and start to sit with parts of you, like with yourself. You start to explore all these difficult things that you've been holding bit by bit. And it is an absolute journey. Like, you know, I'm still on that journey, like I will always be on that journey. Like I'll unlock new things that come up pretty much every day. Because there's only so much capacity we have to hold something. So it's like you start with small things, you test it, it might be overwhelming, you then bring yourself back into regulation, then you go again and you bring in a little bit more, and then gradually your capacity grows to sit with whatever you need to sit with. And that's how it is. But that doesn't mean we have to wait for like some end point, or we have to wait where we're healed or all the trauma's gone, because that might never be the case. You know, you've got your whole life. So it's like, it's about bringing yourself to a space where you're more regulated, you start to process, but then you can also, you have enough room now, or you have enough space and capacity to now start to think, okay, where does my life actually want to go? What do I want to add? What do I want to change? And you start doing that. So like for me, whilst this whole process was going on in terms of like healing and processing trauma and everything, I was like, right, I'm gonna now go and do self-employment. I'm gonna go help people privately, because I have done all this stuff, I've done all these courses, let me now start doing that. But I'm still in my own journey in the process, right? It doesn't mean I'm at any point in my life where I'm right, I'm healed, because again, it doesn't work like that. So it's building the capacity to more and more start to change, start to grow, start to expand.
What is the dream
for me? Well, at the moment, my vision is to be completely flexible, working online, and just being able to travel wherever I like to travel, to be in communities, to explore, you know, to kind of go on my own journeys. Again, like I mentioned, I do a lot of my inner work. I would love to take that in other like cultures, you know, go like live with a tribe, and, you know, go live in the mountains, all these different things. So I just want, for me, just to be able to do what I like, and to be able to nurture my whole being in a way that works for me. So it's like having my own schedule, having the food that works for me, the sleep that works for me, the exercise, the people, the environment. Like the freedom to choose for myself is ultimately what I want. But there's nothing really more specific than that. Like, I'm just enjoying life, being in that freedom, really, like, you know, and very specific things might change month to month. You know, one month I want to be in this country, the next month I want to be there, then I want to, you know, maybe buy this boat, do this, but I keep them very open and flexible, so that whatever actually needs to come into my life will. So it's like whatever actually manifests, I know is the right thing for me, but that freedom is ultimately the main thing.
This has been great. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. If people want to find you, reach out, where can we find you?
So at the moment my website is enlightenedsoultribe.com. I will be changing that, because obviously I've got my new direction, but I will redirect to the new site from there. So at the moment I'll just leave that. Or on Facebook, it's just Daria Lebedeva. I'll probably still have that Facebook as well. Yeah.
Any other socials?
Again, Instagram and Light and Soul Tribe, that will be changing.
Okay.
And I do have a LinkedIn as well, which is also Daria Lebedeva.
Okay, and I'll pop all of that on in the show notes and everything. So thank you so much.
Yes,
I've
thank you.
thoroughly enjoyed that. There's a lot for me to think about that.
Okay, good.
So, yeah. A huge thank you to Daria, walking along the Thames there through belief, memory, and the quieter forms of strength. What stayed with me was Daria's refusal to hand herself over to the systems, the labels, or just single explanations, and her insistence on finding what worked for her body, her spirit, and her sense of direction. Now, if this conversation gave you something to sit with, you can support the podcast by sharing it with someone who walks your pace, or by leaving a review. It helps more than you think. Once again, thank you to Daria. Please seek her out on all social medias, and her website is up and running. I'll pop that in the show notes. You can find Daria's work at Enlightened Soul Tribe online. Thank you for walking with us. Buen camino, and keep listening.